really concerned about World Cup, not for Real Madrid and our players, but mainly because of what the World Cup situation is. Just the fact that it's in Qatar. We've talked about this a lot of time, but we have to say it again. It is an embarrassing situation for football fans to have this humanitarian situation where we have to. It's football. It's football, and the players have been handcuffed in terms of how much they can petition, how much they can boycott, and how much they can even talk about it. And so it's up to the fans. It shouldn't be up to the fans. It should be up to those massive multinational corporations who are pumping all this money into the World Cup. You've actually made an interesting comment, Yves, which kind of leads us into La Liga, which is, the ability to have, you have a system and you're spending money to try to fill players who fit that system, right? And you guys, I think Barcelona has done the best transfer in a summer. Last transfer, you guys, we remember.
Yeah, when the winter transfer.
We rated Barcelona the best in January. And again, I will rate number one for summer. You've gotten the people. I was cheese. We've talked about it. But now looking at how your performances are, you've only dropped 2 points. You lose your first game. Champions League, again, group stage doesn't matter. You'll be fine. I know why you have a little bit of you're shaking a little bit because last year you also were dropped out in the group stage, but that was a completely different team, right? Completely different makeup, different manager, right? And I think Barcelona is doing well. I'm Classico, gives me pause, but hey, World Cup year, man. Nations League. Let's make the players play on
limited number of games.
And what's going to happen? Injury. And now, how does it make you feel in terms of the next? I would say the next 6 weeks before the World Cup. Next 6 weeks before the World Cup. How do you think Barcelona is going to finish going into the World Cup?
Well, I tell you that Barcelona is not going to finish in the top two. In my belief, I think we're going to drop a lot of points. I think the defense has been the weakest for Barcelona, and we managed to get a gem, which is Koundé, and he's injured. So him being injured for 4 weeks during our most crucial month before the World Cup, we have El Clasico, we have Inter Milan, which is crucial for Inter to win and crucial for Barcelona to win. We have Bayern Munich again. It's going to be an intense month before the World Cup, and of course,
Did you play Atleti too before the World Cup?
I don't think we play Atleti before the World Cup, but
I think it's just the El Clasico. I think.
Yeah, it's just El Clasico. Which anyway, Atleti I wouldn't be worried because let's leave it to that. What I am worried about is Champions League because we do have the toughest group, and if we had a little bit of a lighter group, I would have been like, we would have qualified even if Koundé is injured. It's fine, we would have made it. But we do have some serious teams that are going through a rough patch themselves. But Bayern Munich will always be Bayern in Champions League. Inter Milan will want that spot for sure. I mean, Lautaro Martinez can just spice up at any moment. So I think Champions League, I'm more worried about Liga because La Liga, no offense to the little teams, I mean, unfortunately, they're definitely weaker than last year. So only difficulty I would have is how many points we have to catch up Real Madrid if they continue to tag on points, right? Because then it's a point system until the end of the year. I think playing every single game before the World Cup is not only life-threatening for the players, but life-threatening for just the viewers because what are we going to watch? B-team nationals? Like I'm looking at my home team tonight versus Denmark, and I'm like, okay, I actually think my team where I was born, Denmark, will probably do better than France if outside of Mbappé because they're a complete team. And they're not that weak versus France. It's a brand new team. And Dembélé doesn't want to play because he's prioritizing, Barcelona. So I'm like, okay, well, if it's just going to be Mbappé, does PSG have a say that he can only play 45 minutes before they focus on something else? So I worry about the World Cup, and it's going to be a long travel for them. They're all going to go over there. It's Champions League. There's going to be travels during that. So Champions League definitely worries me how it's going to affect players for the World Cup because it's when players tend to spur on to be able to win that spot. Liga, I think only the Prem will be fighting every single point. I think the other leagues will probably let it lie a little bit more. Maybe Barcelona will play some players, but I think Xavi will flip it around. Champions League for me worries me the most with injuries. And World Cup, definitely. I don't know how we're going to get players back at a full fitness level after Christmas. It's just I don't know how they're going to do it. Poor players, honestly. I mean, they get paid like I'll never get paid that amount, but poor them.
Still,
It's a lot. It's a lot of games.
But your core is still there, right? Like Gavi, Pedri, Lewandowski, Raphinha, Dembele. Like you still have a core. Lewandowski's not going to
the core. It's the defense. Right? It's the defense, right?
It is, but you were able to strengthen. I mean, you still got PK.
Okay, let's not talk about him. Like I love PK, and I'm sure he's going to be the future president of Barcelona. But good Lord, know when to quit. Yes, sometimes you need to know. So here's an interesting fact that maybe, and this kind of goes back to player mentality. So apparently, Christensen has been rumored many times. Although I think he's a great player for a lower league, many times that he can't handle the pressure, so he tends to get stomach cramps before big games. Now Koundé being injured and Araujo being injured, he has to step up. How is he going to step up if my man has cramps every 10 seconds?
He's going to be more intense now because he knows everything is on him. There's no one can bail him out.
And yet for Denmark, it almost is he knows it's not a high team. He plays like a boss. So I'm wondering, how is he going to figure it out when we need him the most? So it'll definitely be interesting next couple of weeks. I can't wait to see Barcelona try and figure that situation, because when a team goes down, that's when you see how good of a team they are, how they come back up. So it'll be interesting. But Athletic Madrid, not too worried.
I'm honestly, man, I don't think you guys are going to drop below 2. Real Betis, their number one guy, Fekir, he's injured, right? They're going to drop points. We also see that in who they were. Sevilla has been ransacked by everybody in the top 5 leagues. It's really just Villarreal and Unai Emery out there who is going to give anybody any of Real Madrid and Barcelona a problem. And like Real Madrid showed, Atletico Madrid ain't a team. They're a mishmash of fans trying to play the game before match day, right? Yeah. All that nonsense that happened with Vinicius Jr. I can't believe it took them so long before they said we denounce what these guys have done. Okay, great. Have you kicked them out? Have you rescinded their membership? What else are you going to do now? And I think that marred a very we haven't seen a derby like that in a while, where it was tense. It was there was a lot of passion in there, just like the Mourinho Pep Guardiola years of the Classicos, right? We haven't seen a derby fight like that in a while, because the derbies when Zidane was there was like, oh my goodness, there's class coming into town. There's class coming into the park, and it's just going to be Real Madrid just beating them, just outclassing them, but I saw Atletico Madrid come out and play, and granted,
which was refreshing. It was refreshing, right? Like I said, it was super refreshing.
In Champions League earlier that week, they were not playing, and what happened? They were awful. They were awful, god awful, and they lost. And so I think when you look at the whole makeup of the league right now, I think Barcelona will be fine. Won't drop below number 2, but I'm just very concerned about. I was concerned about the Benzema situation with the World Cup. I'm glad that I'm glad that he had to take time off. I'm not that he was injured, that he had to take time off, and Real Madrid had to figure out a way to play without him before the World Cup. Because if he gets injured at the World Cup, we're going to be screwed. But we figured it out with Vinny and Rodrigo. I'm glad he's playing Rodrigo as the false 9 and not as a wing with Hazard. I'm even more thankful that he's not playing Asensio as his false 9. And the only thing I need to say about Real Madrid, because we all know, the only team in the top 5 leagues that has won every single game. Not only are we undefeated, we've won every single game. I think the only game that will drop points will be the Classico before the World Cup, and it's because we have backup in every position. Midfield, no problems. Even if we lose 2 people, we have no problems in midfield. In attack, I don't even think we really have a problem, because Asensio is playing where he should be, 3rd string. And if he comes on as a 3rd string, hey, fine, that's all good, because he's coming on as a 3rd string. And when he comes on as knowing he's a 3rd string, he will play smarter. He will run back for defense. We saw that when he was playing in when he came on in the last game before the international break and actually scored that delicious goal. And like I said,
that was a good goal.
He's a goal by souls. He doesn't give you wins, right? And even in the back, defensively, we are fine, except for one place. And I've said this for since we started this podcast. Our right back situation is dumb. Vasquez is injured now. He was our backup right back. So we have Odriozola, who for me should not be playing in any of the top 5 leagues. He'd be playing in a lower league in the top 5 in the top 5 countries in Europe. But that's my major concern.
What about Carvajal? I saw him play. What game was that? But he didn't look too he didn't look as good as he looked obviously in the Champions League finals. But
yeah, well, that's because he's not fit. Because with Carvajal, because he had a heart situation, he had a virus in his heart a couple of years back, and he was out for like 3 months. And he always runs so hard and plays so and when he plays minutes, he gets run into the ground before the end of the season. So Ancelotti smartly ramped him up over the year and kept playing Vasquez. And then that way Vasquez is fit, and then Carvajal gets fit for the business end of the season. But now you have Carvajal who that's why Carvajal now he's starting to get fit. He's playing more sooner than he should have been, especially with the World Cup coming. And he's going to get luck because Spain doesn't really have a right back, right? And that's my concern is our right back situation. Luckily for us, we brought in Rudiger. Lucky for us, we have Nacho class. Lucky for us, we have Mendy, who is almost double-footed. Right. And I think in January, if we were to go into the January transfer window, we would have to grab a right back because we let our right back youth player go to another team because he needed minutes, and that's fair. So I think Real Madrid, we're in a great position. I'm really concerned about World Cup. Not for Real Madrid and our players, but mainly because of what the World Cup situation is, just the fact that it's in Qatar. We've talked about this a lot of time, but we have to say it again. It is an embarrassing situation for football fans to have this humanitarian situation where we have to, it's football. It's football. And the players have been handcuffed in terms of how much they can petition, how much they can boycott, and how much they can even talk about it. And so it's up to the fans. It shouldn't be up to the fans. It should be up to those massive multinational corporations who are pumping all this money into the World Cup. That's who it should go up to. It should be them who are the ones who should be protesting. It should be them who are the ones who should be saying, you know what, you guys need to step up, and put FIFA on notice. But they won't. And of course, fans, if you're gonna put World Cup in the middle of the year when it's cold and 80% of the most populous countries in the richest countries in the world, Europe, Canada, North America, what are we gonna do? Obviously, we're gonna watch soccer during November, December. We're gonna boycott it. If it was in the summer, it'd be a lot easier to boycott it. I would just watch the semis and the finals, But that's the situation, and for me, I think the biggest story that's going to come out of the World Cup is the fact that England has once again underperformed.